Hello YouTube, it's Carlos the Rook, and I'm bringing you the first game I played in the Georgia Open and Amateur Championship 2025. I took a bye round one, so we're starting off round two. I'm playing Elijah Newman, who is currently at a rating of 2017, and my monthly rating is 1716. So he starts off with e4. I respond c5, Sicilian defense, knight c3. So either here he's going into the Magnus opening or maybe a Grand Prix. So I go d6, f4. It's a Grand Prix attack. So I go g6, knight f3, bishop g7, controlling the dark squares. This is what my setup is angling for. And here he goes bishop to b5. I never seen this move before. And when I looked it up on Stockfish, Stockfish gave this as the #1 recommended move in the position. So I played bishop d7, and I thought he would retreat the bishop to c4 maybe, because normally the bishop comes here and put pressure down this square, this diagonal. But he didn't. He played another move I'd never seen before, a4. And I wasn't sure what exactly this setup was, but I decided to just continue with my regular developing move, knight c6, and that Stockfish recommends that as the best move in the position, and it gives black a slight advantage, very slight, 0.11. So here Stockfish fluctuates between recommending castling and d3. Elijah plays d3, and here Stockfish wanted me to play a6, putting the question to the bishop. Are you going to capture the knight, or are you going to retreat to c4? But instead, I played e6, and my idea here was to keep the knight on c3 from coming into d5. So e6 prevents that, and then I can develop this knight here. So, and then that protects the other knight. So that was my idea. So Elijah captures on c6. And here, I made a positional error. I'm supposed to capture back with the bishop. And that's what Stockfish is recommending. Bishop captures c6, white castles, knight h6. And then black castles. So this is what Stockfish is recommending. But instead, I played bishop captures c6, and now from going 0.11 black way, it swung 1.85 white way. And this is just a positional error. And my idea was to keep the knight out of d5 in case the e6 pawn ends up on e5. But that's not needed here. So I should have captured with the bishop, captured the b pawn where it was on b7, and had more flexibility. So he castles. And I go knight e7. I was supposed to play a5. That's what Stockfish recommended. And I considered a5, but I didn't want the pawn to be too far advanced and by itself and become a weakness. And he goes queen e1. Here I castle. And at this point, white has a 2.12 advantage according to Stockfish. And he plays e5. So here, I don't want to capture on e5, because if I capture on e5, then I have two double pawns on the c file, which become extremely weak. So I don't want to do that. So I can't capture. And if I move the knight or the bishop, he captures. And once again, I have the double pawns hanging on the c file. So I felt like the only move in this position was d5. And now I'm challenging the control of c4, e4. With ideas of maybe pushing up in the future. And here he plays a5. So I knew I needed to play a5 after he played e5. A5 was in my head. Something like, okay, at this point I need to play a5 to keep that pawn from marching further. And so at this point, now I want to play a6 in order to keep it from coming to a6. Because then, if in any way this a pawn falls, this pawn here, his a pawn becomes a monster. So I play a6 in order to stop the pawn from coming up any further, and then I immediately realized that was a mistake because that allows knight a4. Let me show you. Knight a4, and then to knight to b6, and then the knight becomes brutal. So he plays the knight a4, and he's targeting my c5 pawn, which is unprotected, and I can't protect it. So I figured I might as well just push it forward. So I go c4, d captures, I capture back, and now he goes knight c5 instead of knight b6. Let me see what Stockfish recommended in this position. Stockfish recommends knight c5. It has knight c5 at 3.15, knight b6 at 2.43. So here, I just thought knight b6 was a better move, forking the bishop and the rook. So I go knight d5. And my idea is simple. You can take the light square bishop. It's a bad bishop anyway, so it's not doing any good. And I want to play c3. And that way I want to show you here. Well, let's say let's just make a bad move for white just to show. Let's say he was to do h3. Then my idea is c3. And then if you take, you got doubled up pawns that become a weakness in the future. So, and if you don't take, then I got a strong pawn sitting in the position that restricts the bishop. So that was my idea. But he figured out my idea and he played c3 himself. Now, the c4 pawn is going to fall. There's no way I can protect it. So I know it's going to fall. So I figured here I wanted to figure out some kind of way of getting some counterplay. So I went rook b8. And my idea is to give up the a pawn and swing my rook to b5 where I'm hitting his a pawn, just to show you. Here, here, and now that a pawn falls. So that was my idea. But Elijah didn't take the pawn. Instead, he went queen e4, targeting the c4 pawn. So here I played rook e8. And my idea is to bring the bishop to f8 and capture the knight. Hold on. Queen e4. No, I played rook b5 right away. So I played rook b5 right away to go after the a pawn. He captures queen, captures c4. And I can't take the A pawn because the knight would take the bishop on D7. So I can't capture that pawn yet. So I move the bishop out of the way and protects my A pawn since he didn't take it when it was free. And now he goes B4. So now he got a pawn chain and I got weaknesses. And my bishop is just dead here on C8. It's just horrible. So now I play rook E8 with the idea of bringing the bishop to F8 and hitting that knight twice and disrupting his pawn chain. And he go knight D4, hitting my rook and my bishop. I mean, my rook and my C6 pawn. So here, Stockfish says the best move is F5, giving up the exchange. And I play Queen C7, protecting my C6 pawn. And my idea is I'm going to give up the rook, give up the exchange, but I'm going to hit these two pawns here for the knight, because these knights are just brutal in my position. And then once I capture this way with the C6, my bishop can go to B7. After this, bishop goes to F8. I just want to bring my bishops to life. So I don't mind giving up the exchange as long as I give my bishops some activity. And here white is up 3.56, so white is clearly winning. And the move Stockfish recommends is not taking the rook, but going bishop D2. Bishop D2. Wow. Bishop D2 is just crazy work. Bishop D2. Bishop D2, knight E7, queen E2. What does that even do? That's crazy. So Elijah captured. Knight captures B5. I recaptured hitting the queen. The queen went back to B3. I thought the queen needed to go to either D3 or E2. Thought the queen would have been better on that line because here it's just hitting a knight in a wall of pawns. So now I go bishop F8. The idea is to take the knight, disrupt the pawn chain. He moves his knight, and now his idea is to bring that knight into F6. So it's protected by my knight. So I got to make sure my knight don't get ran off because it's protecting this fork right here. And I'll show you. My knight protects that. So here I play bishop B7. And my idea is to put the queen on C6 or rook on C8 and develop some counterplay. Now he plays bishop D2. I go rook C8. And I'm putting pressure on that C pawn. And he goes rook on A to E1. I'm not sure what his idea was here. I thought the rook was coming to the C file. So I go bishop E7. Now I can move my knight if need be. The bishop protects this F6 square. And he goes queen D1. He's going to reroute his queen to the king side because the position is held up on the queen side. And I go queen C4. So now he goes knight D6. I capture. He captured back. And I go queen C6. So what I'm saying is I'm threatening to move the knight and set it up a mate in one. This D pawn is weak. And I got counterplay. My bishop, which was once dead, is now back to life. Those knights that just infiltrated my position are gone. And this C pawn is still a weakness because I'm pressing down this file. So he goes queen e2. And I capture the pawn on d6. Let's just get rid of that pawn. It's not going to be a problem in the future. That pawn is not promoting. And he goes f5. F5 was a really, really great move. It just disrupts everything I wanted to do. Because now, my knight outpost on d5 is in jeopardy. I can't capture with the g-pawn because then my king will become unsafe. So I gotta capture with e captures f5. And now I feel like this knight is weak and vulnerable. And maybe I can get it from to f6 to e4 was my idea. So you go bishop a6. And now he's setting up right here. When it'll be checkmate, queen comes, rook follow, and king has nowhere to move. So I go queen c6, defending the e8 square, and setting up my maiden threat again. And also 3 times hitting this 3 times, that's unprotected. And he plays queen e5. Now, that's what I kind of wanted him to play. And then he's threatening. Checkmate here. Let me do that again. So that's a better diagonal. He's threatening checkmate on g7. And my idea, I had seen this, and my idea was knight f6, followed by rook e8, hitting the queen. So knight f6 blocks his checkmate, threatens my own checkmate. So I figured knight f6, rook e2, rook e8, and now the queen has to move. If you're giving up the queen for a rook, I'll take it. No, not even for a rook, for a knight. Yeah, you give up the queen for a rook. That's what I thought he would have to do. And because if he moves the queen, then I'll fall back with rook captures e1. But here, Stockfish says the best move is f6. And after the game, we talked, and he told me I should have played f6 here instead of knight f6. And he said I should have kept the knight on d5, and I would have had a fortress. And he don't see how he would have got into the position. But my thing with f6 was, if I go f6, he can just go here and trade queens. Then the second rook is coming with the threat. So Stockfish is saying king e7. When the rook comes here, once again, the knight is protecting. Oh, g5. g5, and now the bishop ain't got nowhere to get out of there. Oh, snap. Wow. h4. Just so the bishop can get an escape. So this is what I'm supposed to play. And I could have stayed in this game. So this was the line I was supposed to find in order to get a draw. But I missed it. I went knight f6. And I thought I had him here. But I missed his response. He goes rook f3. Which now he's no longer winning. It drops him down to 1.20. And I went rook e8, thinking I was picking up the rook. And what I missed was queen g3 protects the rook. So here I played knight e4. I wasn't sure if I wanted to go knight e4 or knight g4, threatening the bishop. But Stockfish says knight e4 was the best move. So I played the best move in the position, hitting the queen. So he goes queen h4. And here I was trying to figure out how do I capitalize on this position. Like I wanted something like I was looking at knight. The bishop protects any knight moves on d2. The rook stops me. The rook on f3 stops my checkmate threats. So I wasn't really sure what to play here. So the engine is saying f6 still. f6 and it's a drawn position. f6 and black doesn't break through. It's that simple, just f6. And I don't know why I didn't play f6. Maybe I thought I had weaknesses on the light squares if I play f6, but I got the light square bishop. f6 just dominates. I see it now easily. It's double protected by the knight and the queen. It just makes sense. So I went rook c8, threatening to capture this pawn. And he goes rook to d1. So now the threat is if I take this, he take this, I take this, rook d8. I take, queen comes back, and it's a mate because the king has nowhere to move. And that's the whole point of f6. f6 stops all of that. So now I play f6. Finally. I guess the third time's a charm. f6. And now he plays queen e1. Rook e8. And now he goes rook e3, which Stockfish says is an error. And it says that my move should be king f7, which I do play. King f7. Hold on, let me go back. Rook on f to d3. Rook on f to d3 is the best move in the position. Oh, setting up a double foul. But he played rook e3. I went king f7. I wanted to protect the rook so the knight can be able to move. And he goes queen f1. So I'm thinking he's trying to come into f4 and set up something that way to infiltrate the position. And here, the way to stay in the game, the move I didn't see, but the way to stay in the game was f4. Bishop captures f4. g5. Bishop falls back. And then here. Well, rook captures d2 because the queen was under threat. And rook captures here. And now the material is back even. And I stay in the game. That was what I had to come up with in order to stay in the game, but I missed it. I played rook c8 thinking white really didn't have no way to get in. I thought my position was solid. If you try and attack down the h-file, this rook can swing over to h8 and protect. I thought I had a fortress. That's what I thought I had. I thought I had a fortress set up. But white can get in on the d-file. That's what I missed. And he does just that, doubling up the rooks on the d-file. I bring the rook back to protect against a check here. He checks. I block. He comes in. I take. And now queen d3. Threatening to infiltrate with queen d8 check. And the move here is queen c7 to stop it. I went queen e8. And now he plays c4. I go bishop c6. Capture twice. Now the queen gets in on d5. And I go queen d7, which is a blunder. Bishop f8 check. It deflects the king. King captures f8. Queen captures d7. Bishop captures. Rook captures. I move the knight over to take a pawn. He takes, I take. Rook b6, knight d5. Rook drops to b7, stopping the king from moving. And from here, it's toast. White win. So it was a rough way to start off the game. I made a positional error early in the game. I was able to fight back and get a drawn position and set up a fortress. But then I fumbled and let the fortress get bust in because I played wrong. So this is a valuable lesson. And it just teaches you to look deep into a position. Even when you don't see a move, you got to look harder and find a winning concept. That way, if I'd have came up with that f4, the bishop captures, then g5, pushing the bishop back, then I could have traded off the material imbalances and equalized the position. Thank you for watching, YouTube. Have a nice day. Hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And tell all your friends who love chess about this. Let's build up this channel. Thank you. Bye.